Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it's a real honour to follow the member for Blaydon and to read out what Mo Molam wrote about another civic group, the Quakers, who were also instrumental in the peace process. She said in a speech in 2022 at Friend's House here in London that Quaker House did an incredible amount where everyone knew they could be trusted during the peace process, and I wouldn't have been able to talk to such a cross-section of people without being able to meet in that house. They told me who to listen to. Without them, my life would have been much tougher than what it was. And I think we've heard so many contributions from different members across the House. And I suppose, like all things in life, you know, success has many fathers, doesn't it? But it was, I think, that moment in history where we all remember where we were, Good Friday in 1998. And it was at that period that I actually joined the Labour Party, because it was a very hopeful time for us who were in the progressive side of politics. It was very exciting. It was a time of great hope, as the member for Leeds Central has mentioned that word, hope. And we all do remember following as the weather warmed up and as the spring came, that sense of moving towards something positive. And following that, of course, the decommissioning process, which was exciting in itself to see strong men handing in weapons, followed by the investment in public services, the good quality policing, and of course then the private investment coming in after that. And of course, we know at the same time that there's a certain fragility, as many members have mentioned today. And so it's quite pleasing that this week is just 1 week after having walked through the lobbies to support the Windsor framework, coming as it does before the April anniversary, and of course the visit by President Biden, which I think will be an echo of perhaps the phone calls which President Clinton made to encourage the parties, and also just to remember that momentous occasion. I briefly also wanted to quote from Senator Mitchell, who was mentioned in the remarks from my colleague and friend, the member for Leeds Central, because he said that I believe there's no such thing as a conflict that can't be ended. They're created and sustained by human beings. They can be ended by human beings, no matter how ancient the conflict, no matter how hateful, no matter how hurtful, peace can prevail. And I think it is down to the people of Northern Ireland that have done that. So it's a very special anniversary. But those of us who watched it and wanted it to happen hope also we played a role in that. I also briefly wanted to touch on the point that's been very present in the debate today, Mr Deputy Speaker, around process. And I'm sure you, as a great supporter of a peace process in Cyprus, will also recognise that there is a sense that it's never concluded. And I know members here today have spoken of ongoing fears, a security threat assessment that is severe, and that the legacies do remain, and certain individuals in a conflict situation will always be invested in non-peaceful survival. So we will see, for example, a sense that the troubles will be, some people will want to go back to that period. And we think, for example, of the tragic death of the journalist Lyra. And that's when it really comes home, when such a young journalist, such a young person is affected, that we're not there yet. And I also wanted briefly to speak about the local environment, having come through local government myself, and I'm not going to go through how many years I was in local government like other colleagues. It wasn't as long. But we do know the importance of the local, and while at a very personal level, I was pleased in 2019 to be part of the decriminalisation of abortion for women in Northern Ireland. I also recognise that that can only truly be meaningful in a public services context when it's legislators in Stormont who make that a 100% reality. There's still so much work to be getting on with. I would also commend the work of educationalists to bringing in a truly integrated education service, because it will be in the future generations where we see the fruits of the labour of this generation. I wonder if I could ask the Minister in his remarks as he winds up about his views on a Bill of Rights for Northern Ireland. It has been discussed over the years, and I wonder what his assessment is about whether that will be taken forward in the near future, whether he thinks there is a future for that idea, what his personal assessment of that is. The other thing I wanted to ask about was what his view on clashes around the ECHR might be, particularly given that that's quite a live debate in our own chamber, but obviously an integral part of the 1998 Good Friday Agreement. If he could comment on those two views, those two ideas in his summing up, because I think what we see in both sides of Ireland, I think, is a sense that there's a modernisation occurring. I would say some of that is also due to the influence of friends in Europe. I know European friends have often said to me, what is happening in Ireland, what is happening to people, and very much a part of their negotiations with the UK has been wanting to see progress on securing the peace in the two bits of Ireland. So I wonder, in his concluding remarks, if the Minister could reflect on those questions, because I think it's always good to have an anniversary, but I think it's always good to be forward-looking as well and to challenge for future progress towards a more peaceful and more rights-based future for people in the wonderful place of Northern Ireland.